We have some fast solar wind hitting now with a solar storm chaser, and some returning regions on the east limb could bump up activity. Those stories and more are in this week's Spotlight. If you want to learn how weather from our star causes impacts at the Earth that shape the future of our world, join Professors Dr. Jenny Meehan, Michael Cook, and myself as we guide you through a space weather certificate program like no other. To enroll in the Space Weather and Environment Science program offered at Millersville University, go to millersville.edu/SWEN. It's weather for the 21st century. This forecast also sponsored in part by CW Ops. Space weather this week stays a bit on the mild side. As we take a look at our Earth-facing disk, we do have a lot of active regions in Earth view, but they're kind of in a holding pattern. They really haven't been firing off any big flares. In actuality, the biggest activity we've gotten is from fast wind from this coronal hole that's rotating in through the Earth strike zone. The fast wind it's sending has actually managed to bring us Aurora clear down to mid-latitudes, likely because we're really close to the equinox, so the impacts end up being quite larger. But the nice thing is that we do actually have one active region. This is region 3834 and 3835, kind of this cluster of stuff here. This one back on the 22nd fired, wham, right there. A beautiful solar storm launch right there. You can see it looks very much like it's going to be going to the east of Earth. But when we take a look at it in coronagraphs, you can see this partial halo. Let me try to pull it up just a little bit more. Whereas it actually looks, you can see it kind of going all the way around the sun like this. It was an asymmetric halo, but that does mean that part of it is Earth directed. And so this solar storm is going to be chasing that fast solar wind and be hitting us really any time now. But since then, it kind of destabilized this filament and destabilized that filament, but we still haven't seen them launch. They're still holding on as well. So what we've really been paying attention to is region 3836. This is the region that's just beginning to rotate into view. We even have a couple regions after that that we're watching as well. But when we take a closer look at the activity that's going on with this region, we can pull up here in magnetic field imaging. You can actually see as this thing gets closer into focus, as it rotates further into view, you can see all of this red region in here, and then you see this blue and white region. And take a look at these little fingers of red that are poking up into the blue and white. That's showing that this region really could be a big flare player. So we've been watching it very closely because it sure looks like activity could be picking up from these regions here in the next few days. Now, switching back to that solar storm that's Earth-directed, we switch to our solar storm prediction model, ENLIL. Now, this is NOAA's version of the model. The top panel's density, the bottom panel's velocity. You're looking down at the sun from the North Pole with Earth being off to the right. And when we set this solar storm model in motion, you can actually see that solar storm launching mainly to the east of Earth. You can see it's quite long here, but it does have a finger that extends upward along the Earth-Sun line. So it looks like we're going to just get grazed by this solar storm. NOAA had predicted that this storm would impact us early on the 25th. That has not happened, likely because of this fast wind stream right here. You can actually see the density plug here that kind of acts as like a brick wall. You can see a little bit of that fast wind stream here. That is likely slowing down this solar storm, so we kind of have to wait for that fast solar wind to wane just a little bit before this solar storm hits us. So we're expecting it later on today. Now, as we take a look at the NOAA version of the model, again, we're looking down at the sun from the North Pole with Earth being off to the right. You're going to see this solar storm launch, but if you look very closely, I'm actually showing the shock wave in front of that solar storm. Yes, NASA actually models the shock as well as the bulk of the solar storm. And as we pull it out, you can see we actually get a bigger hit from the shock itself. This is the part that we've been kind of waiting for to come. It is on the late side, but it still looks like the shock is coming. The bulk of the structure will hit us late on the 25th, but more likely into the 26th because it's being delayed again by this fast solar wind stream. that we have just ahead of it. So aurora photographers, if you're at mid-latitudes, you might even be enjoying a bit of fun from the fast solar wind, but we could get a plus up in activity once that solar storm hits. We could even see G2 levels before things begin to calm down. So expect to keep your batteries charged, but stay on your toes because this storm could hit at any minute. So what else does our sun have in store for us this week? Well, to determine that, we go to our full sun map that utilizes SDO AIA imagery for the sun's front side and solar orbiter EUI imagery on the sun's far side to get an idea of what active regions might be lurking there. And to orient you, if I set this in motion, you can see here's the east limb of the sun in Earth view, and here's region 3834 and 3835. These were the regions that fired off that Earth-directed solar storm that we're waiting for. But as we look past that, back around on the 20th and 21st, here's region, what will be region 3836. You can see it's got some activity here, but take a look at region 3811 and 3821. These are returning regions, and you can watch some of the activity. Bam, right there's a little something. This region is actually growing as well. So as we watch some of this activity with these two regions, we know we have at least two more active regions that will end up being possibly big flare players and possibly solar storm producers. So expect, for you amateur radio operators, expect that solar flux to increase as well as that radio noise here over the next week. And potentially we will also have more activity and more solar storms. Now, switching to our moon, we are now passing through the third quarter phase on our way to a new moon. And by the 30th, the moon will be about 4.5% illuminated. So you night sky watchers, if you want to catch those dim objects in the sky, like, I don't know, maybe some aurora near the equinox, well, now is your perfect chance because this guy is a bit on the dim side. And now switching to our solar storm conditions and aurora possibilities over the coming week, we are anticipating the hit from that Earth-directed solar storm that's following that fast solar wind. So at high latitudes, NOAA's expecting major storm conditions, and we have up to about a 20% chance of a severe storm on the 26th, but things will calm down quite quickly because it's only a glancing blow. So by the 27th, things could be back down into active conditions, and then we will continue to quiet down after that. Now at mid-latitudes, well, the story's about the same. We're expecting minor conditions, but we do have up to about a 40% chance of a major storm. And again, back to active conditions by the 27th, and then things will continue to quiet down. Of course, we do have those new regions rotating into Earth view, and we could have multiple filament launches. So the back part of this forecast could definitely change very quickly. But aurora photographers, you should keep your cameras at the ready because we could get some more aurora this week. Now, switching to our solar flare and dayside radio blackout outlook over the coming week, well, we're sitting well into the triple digits. We're sitting at about the 170s right now, and that's about where we'll stay. We've got some moderate noise on the bands right now. This is because we do have a couple big flare players in Earth view, and more are coming. NOAA's giving us about a 55% chance of an M-class flare at R1 to R2 level radio blackout, and about a 20% chance of X-class flares at an R3 level radio blackout, and that will easily last over the next couple days until those new regions rotate into Earth view, and I've kind of bumped up the levels just a little bit, not too much, but that does mean that we are watching that radio noise rise just a little bit as well as that solar flux, so radio propagation should remain pretty good on the dayside bands, but we could have more radio blackouts in store. And now as we switch to our radiation storm and polar aviation outlook over the coming week, everything is basically in the green this week. We're sitting at the D1 normal range for you aviators at flight level 360, and that is the S0 quiet range for everybody else. NOAA's only giving us about a 5% chance of an S1 to S2 level radiation storm. That might rise as we move through the 5-day because we have a few more regions that are going to be rotating to the west limb that we have to watch out for. But overall, everything is reasonably quiet. So you frequent flyers, and this does include air crew and high-risk passengers, for the most part, we're all in the green, and we're likely going to stay that way. So the space weather this week has been a bit on the mild side, but activity is beginning to pick up. Now we do have some fast solar wind that's hitting Earth now, and that's going to be followed by a solar storm chaser. And because of the equinox, that's going to allow Aurora to come down to mid-latitudes. So you Aurora photographers, you've already been getting a little bit of Aurora sporadically at mid-latitudes, and when that storm hits, it could really bump up the shows a bit. So make sure you keep your cameras at the ready. And now amateur radio operators and emergency responders, well, things have been reasonably quiet. We did have that one big M-class flare a few days ago when that solar storm was launched, but since then it's been just low-level M-class flares, really not all that much to talk about. Now activity may be picking up here in the next maybe 3 days as these new regions rotate into Earth view. Radio noise might also pick up a little bit, but it shouldn't be too bad, I'm hoping. So hopefully not too many big R3 level radio blackouts are in store this week, and you kind of can continue to enjoy the dayside radio bands. And now you GPS users, well, we do have, a bit of inclement weather right now, especially on the night side, because we do have some aurora that's dipping down into mid-latitudes, and that's likely going to increase over the next couple days as the solar storm passes through. But we're not having the huge R3 level radio blackouts on the Earth's day side. So that means that radio reception, or GPS reception rather, for you on dawn and dusk might be all right, but just stay vigilant, and on the day side, your reception should be pretty good. I'm Tamitha, the Space Weather Woman. Thank you for watching.